In this episode of the Range Minded Podcast, I know it's short, but I just wanted to wish you guys a happy 4th of July. I love this country, and it's wonderful. And I hope you love it too. Anyways, enjoy this episode of the Range Minded Podcast. I love this country that I live in. I absolutely love the United States of America. This country, in my humble opinion, and probably the opinion of many, many others, is the greatest country on God's green earth. Very few of modern inventions have come from outside of the United States. You think of the airplane, you think of the computer, the internet, modern medicine, just not too modern, I suppose. Many, many other amazing scientific achievements, mathematical understandings, and so many others. I can't even think of them all. But this country truly is amazing. And I love it. It's this time of year that I get to think about our country, where it came from. And then it makes me think of how we need to preserve the freedoms that we have. I know many of you are no strangers to my opinions about the political climate, about how important it is to defend not just the Second Amendment, but all of our freedoms granted in the Bill of Rights. It truly is an amazing place to live, and it shines as a beacon on a hill for other countries to better themselves. And I know it's hard to understand right now with all of our leaders on both sides of the aisle. They seem to be acting as petulant children, arguing over the last little bit of pizza instead of worrying about who they actually represent. It's you and it's me. And it's the millions of others Americans just trying to get by and live our lives without fear. But yet these petulant children seem to be more concerned about getting reelected into office and where their funds are going to come from than they do about you and me and about the millions in poverty, the millions of wounded soldiers who come home, who sacrifice so much, but yet seem to be forgotten. Friends, you are not forgotten. I hope this episode isn't too heavy. I hope to bring some good things to come in, but I'm going to try something a little bit different. I know I'm not the best reader, but I wanted to share this. It is a long document, yet it is an important one. So, without further ado, here we go. The unanimous declaration of the 13 states of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which they have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cause of which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that the governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shewn that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariable the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to prove new guards of their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. The history of present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having the direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted and candid to a candid world. As he refuses his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for public good, he has forbidden these governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large district of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation to the legislature, a right indeterminable to them, formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies that places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant form of depository to their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with many firmness his invasions, and the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such disillusions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large of their exercise, the state remaining to the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose of obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount of payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us, a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they shall commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parties of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in neighboring province by establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example to fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule on these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing the most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has educated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with the circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy of a head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare and his undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned our redress to the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting the attention of our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts of their legislator to extend unwarrantable jurisdictions over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them with the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would have inevitably interrupted our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity of which denounces our separation, and hold them, as we do the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the restitute of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as a free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. It seems an odd thing for me to get teared up over such a document. Why would I cry? I know why I cry. This document represents our freedom. This document, written and submitted in Congress on July 4th, 1776, created an independent country. Free. Free. That all men would be subject not to a king, but to a God. The men that signed this document understood the great risk that their signatures meant. Surely the King of England was not happy. Obviously. Listen to this last line again. With a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Friends, are you letting their sacrifice go to waste? They truly understood that their lives were at stake. Why would they sign such a document? They signed it for you and for me. They signed it because they knew mankind is meant to be free. Free to succeed. Free to fail. Free. Not anarchy. But through the course of sacred honor, this free people would make wise choices, would be able to govern themselves in a way that would make divine providence proud. Proud of true children of liberty. My, has our country changed. My goodness. It baffles me to think how much the citizens of the United States of America, the seemingly majority of its free citizens, choose to disavow the very document that kept them free. It blows my mind. This 4th of July, as you enjoy your barbecues, your parades, your beautiful summer evening, watching the display of fireworks overhead, remember why you have this holiday. It's not just a day off of work. It's a day to thank God for your country, for your freedom. Use your sacred honor to give thanks. Thank you. Thank you for being here.